Well, hello. We are live. I'm so excited. I'm getting over a really nasty cold that's been going around. And so people have had lots of different versions of this. So if you're recognizing me sounding a little bit more masculine than normal, that is real. I really am sounding more masculine than normal. So anyway, I'm very excited about tonight because we are going to be talking about the thing that can seriously change your life. If you can change your self-talk, you can change your life. It's so awesome. It has so much power. At the same time, most of us are hi Laura, we're kind of stuck on the side of just maybe we notice that we have negative self-talk, but maybe we don't even realize that's what it is. But we've, in the mental health community, therapist coaching community, we've named it self-talk. I don't know who came up with this, but it's this concept that there's this inner narrative, this inner dialogue, or maybe it's more of a monologue going on, and it's like narrating your life. It's commenting on what you're doing right now and how you're doing it. And how, if you're doing it right, and of course you're usually not doing it right. Most of the time, this self-talk is a little bit negative. It's commenting on how we could be doing things differently, and it's commenting on what we're not doing. So if you're like sitting down, it'll be like, oh, you're going to sit, huh? Like, why don't you go ahead and get up and finish the dishes? Or don't you have that project you need to be working on? And it doesn't, it always has things for you to be doing. And it has a function. It has kind of a survival function, whether that's like, the old like evolutionary function of like kind of observing your surroundings and helping you feel safe and making sure that you're, physically safe, but maybe emotionally safe in our case, because most of us are not in physical danger. It's helping us to know how to make other people happy, to not disappoint ourselves. And very often self-talk's origin is found in where, in who we grew up around. So if you grew up with parents that had really high expectations, or that were difficult to please, or if you had, maybe you had a family that was a family member that was like really unpredictable, and it felt like you didn't know how to make them happy. And so it was like, I'm just trying to, figure out how to make this person happy, how to, not upset them. A lot of times children of alcoholics or with drug addicted parents can notice this. It feels like they're constantly trying to not upset people. And even as they get older and they're not really in danger anymore, they'll find themselves feeling this like need to make everybody happy and try to like manage things. So a lot of times when we don't feel safe, we try to manage as much of the environment as we can so that we can focus on being emotionally safe, because that really is, once our physical needs are met, once we have shelter, food, water, we're really trying to get our emotional needs met. And we're not often thinking about other people. We're usually thinking about ourselves at that point. But that self-talk is narrating, and it's saying, well, I think that person doesn't like you, or maybe that person's upset with you, or you've disappointed them. And it's all this information has been coming at you from other people. So if you've joined in, I can't always see everybody who's here, but would you go ahead and just say hi, so that I can say hi back to you? Because I can tell people are watching, but I can't always see everyone's name or whatever. So anyways, so yeah, your self-talk is, the origin of it is from typically family members, parents, coaches, teachers, sometimes peers and friends. It very often didn't come just from you, because when we were kids, if you just left us in a room by ourselves and you were like, okay, learn how to do this sport, or, learn how to be a ballerina, an artist, like you would have come out of that room thinking you were really good at ballet, basketball, or art. You wouldn't come out with the conclusion at anything really. Like we like, when you're a kid, I remember my parents bought me a tutu because I was obsessed with ballet. So, they bought me like this little pink tutu, and I had a navy blue leotard and little pink ballet shoes. And I hated ballet class because I was like, this is so dumb. Why am I in ballet class when I'm obviously awesome? And so I would do my pseudo pirouettes around the living room, and my dad would get the video camera out, and I was the oldest child. So was a little bit of like a show off. And, I thought I was awesome at it, and of course they were like, oh, wow, you're so good, and my ballet teacher said I had potential, but I never wanted to go to class because I was always like, I'm good at this. I already got this. So I think naturally our self-talk is going to be pretty positive. But what happens is the people in our lives who have negative self-talk of their own, our adult influences, our parents, our teachers, our coaches, older siblings, older neighbor kids, they're the ones that start to tell us, hey, maybe Sarah, you're not so good at ballet. Hey, maybe that move is like kind of sloppy. And we start to question ourselves. We start to wonder if like our jokes are really that funny, And I can tell you, for an example, like humor in my family was like a really big thing. It was a really high value. And so being the oldest child, I was the one who decided whether or not jokes were funny. So my brother Mark just couldn't win. And I'd be like, Mark, that's not funny. That joke's not funny. Or if he did say a funny joke, then he would repeat it over and over again in the same 5 minutes. I'd be like, no, you can't repeat it because then it's not funny. And so I was the judge of what was funny. So of course there's probably in his head, his 33-year-old head, he's still thinking like, oh, that joke's not funny. I can't tell that joke or something. Hopefully the self-talk that he has is not me in his head anymore. But anyway, I was the big sister. I was bossy. So I thought I was awesome at ballet. I thought everyone else's jokes weren't good enough. And so you can see like our natural self-talk is actually going to be like really focused on how great we are. And then this opposite thing comes in where we get surprised by people telling us that we're actually not as great as we think we are. And then we're like really confused. Okay. We don't know how to correct that. All of a sudden we went from being like the best ballerina, the funniest person, the most attractive person in our minds. We thought we were the best at whatever. And when we're little tiny kids, people do say that. They say like, wow, you're so good at that video game, or like, you're the best artist. You're so good at that, and then we get into school and it's this rude awakening because everyone's like kind of mean, It's like, you're not just the best. They don't even say like, oh yeah, you're pretty good at that or whatever, or you're going to get better. It's like, you go from being the best to the worst. So our self-talk, again, I just want you to understand like where it's coming from. Okay. So give me a thumbs up or, whatever you can do, give me a thumbs up and just like acknowledge if you feel like you kind of are recognizing where some of your self-talk comes from. Maybe you're like, still don't understand self-talk, but if you feel like you're starting to get it, give me a thumbs up or something or say hi. Because I think it's important that we understand like where it came from. We don't always invent this stuff on our own. But what's funny is when we start to hear the same thing over and over, we will very often start to like repeat it so that somebody can be out of your life years later. And you're still repeating the same thing that they said to you over and over. Like, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're fat, you're stupid, you're not funny, you're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to be able to get this. Whatever it is that people say, you're always, you're never. A lot of our self-talk actually starts to like form around those kinds of things that people have said to us. So maybe you're starting to recognize again some of where that happens. But what we'll often notice is that our self-talk is most destructive around areas where we want to see a change and we feel stuck. So for me, I've struggled for a long time with like getting up in the morning consistently. So I used to have like really great habits before I got married. It was just me in a room and I would like sit up and have quiet time and read my Bible and journal and pray and do stuff. And then I got married and it was like awkward because it was like, okay, now it's me, God, and this guy next to me. And like, so it wasn't this like intimate thing. So then I had to leave the room and I like never knew where to go that, I could just have my own space. And so I've just struggled with like finding a routine and a rhythm that's really natural for me. So that's just one area. And so a lot of times I will, wake up in the morning and I'll say to myself, like, I should do something. Like I should get up. I should have some quiet. I should go get a cup of tea. I should. And so, that feeling of should, what it actually does is it kind of releases like a guilt feeling, a guilt chemical in my body. And so when we feel guilt, fear, or shame around something that we're supposed to do, that we say we want to do, but we say should, that should will often create guilt, fear, or shame. And when you have that emotion, guess what? Now you're not going to do it. You're not going to follow through on the thing that you actually probably want to do. This thing is probably resonant with your true self. It might be, getting your budget under control or doing something different with your finances. And again, Leap Year Community is all about goals related to career, finance, relationships, and health. And this is where we get stuck. We get stuck in relationship patterns that we don't want to be in. We get stuck spending our money in ways we aren't proud of. We get stuck, like going to the gym like once a week where it's just not really good enough. And then we're like, why am I even doing this? And we quit, right? Or we're like, oh, I'm going to start eating healthy. And then we don't stick with it. So a lot of times we end up with this like should kind of thing, or we're like, oh no, if I don't go, then I'm going to be fat and no one's going to like me, or no one's going to want to go out with me. Or I'm going to be ugly and I'm going to be stuck like this forever. Or I'm gonna, if I don't spend my money right, then, it might be something like religious, like God's gonna be mad at me, or I'm gonna waste my opportunity, or it might be something really more serious, like, you're gonna be in bad shape financially. You're gonna get a car repossessed, or you're gonna have bad credit, or something like that. So sometimes that fear, guilt, and shame that comes in, it's like your body, your fear, the emotion part of your brain is trying to kick you into like a strong negative emotion so that you'll avoid the consequence. And sometimes that works, right? Like you've been procrastinating on a paper or a project or something that's due tomorrow, and you're like, oh no, and that feeling of fear and panic comes over you, and it actually motivates you. So sometimes our brain uses those tricks of like, the procrastination hormones or emotions. It'll try to use fear, guilt, and shame to like get you to do something. But most of the time, those are actually paralyzing emotions, and we will avoid doing the thing that makes us feel fear, guilt, or shame, even if we want to do it. Okay. And so it's like, oh man, I really want to be doing this, but I'm not. I'm doing this other thing. I'm laying in my bed, hitting snooze. I'm spending money when I don't want to be. I'm not going to the gym when I totally just bought a membership, or I'm going to the gym and I'm standing in front of the TV and I'm like not doing anything. Or I'm still in this argument with my spouse about the same stuff that we always argue about, and I'm not going to get counseling. I'm not talking to someone that I trust. I'm not consulting with a pastor. I'm just like in the rut again and again and again. And again, fear, guilt, and shame will most of the time be an emotion that will cause you to avoid doing the thing that you might even say you want to do. Again, that your true self, your loved, your fully loved self would actually want to do these things, and yet you're not doing them. Okay. So again, let's just recap. Self-talk is that internal narration of like your life, how you're doing. It's just giving you like feedback. It's telling you how you're doing, what you're doing. It's observing how other people are seeing you, how you're seeing other people. And it's often very negative because it's trying to protect us from negative outcomes, but it uses fear, guilt, and shame to motivate us. And this comes from our experience with parents, teachers, coaches, peers, and friends typically. And it's an internalized monologue that we've taken in that when we were kids, it was like mostly positive, and then it started to become negative the more we were exposed to people who were older and who weren't as invested in us. Okay, so a teacher is a little bit more invested, a coach maybe somewhat, but kids on the playground are not invested in how you do. They don't care if your feelings get hurt a lot of the time. And so we end up internalizing the negative so that we can kind of like know, should I avoid, like for me, I shouldn't have tried out for the NBA, right? And so if somebody had been like, hey, you're good at basketball, but you're not that good at basketball, and I had internalized that negative self-talk, I could do two things with it. I could obsess about how bad I am at basketball and wow, I'm never going to make it, okay? Or I could be like, not good at basketball, moving on, like find something else that I'm passionate about. And so how we internalize the negative self-talk can be really, really important. So basketball, I love watching basketball. I don't really love playing basketball. It's seriously my favorite sport growing up. My brothers played, I played some, but I'm not like the super athlete. And so I didn't get a lot of playing time. didn't frankly want a lot of playing time. I was usually there for the social stuff. And so if somebody tells me that I'm not good at basketball, it's just not going to wreck my life. So if somebody said, hey, Sarah, you're like a terrible public speaker and you're like a really bad life coach, I would be like really, really hurt, because that's like something I care about. I really care about communicating, educating, motivating, inspiring, helping people transform their lives. I care about that so much. And so it's like, if someone tells me I'm bad at that, I'm really going to like have a conversation. I'm going to say, what do you mean by that? What's your definition of good? What's your definition of bad? Like, I want to hear, you know, give me some feedback. I want to grow and improve, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape about somebody telling me I'm bad at basketball. I'm going to agree with them. So it's really like, where is my focus? Where is my passion? And we are going to internalize negative self-talk around something that we feel like we want to be good at, and we're not. So if someone says, hey, you're not a good parent, you're not a good spouse, you're not attractive, whatever. Those are things that like are really core to our acceptance by other people and acceptance of ourselves. And we are going to want we're going to want to have good feedback from other people about that. So if my husband says, hey, you know, I feel like you're really letting me down as a spouse, or my kids are like, hey, you're not a good mom, like that's going to wreck my life for a minute. Okay. Because I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, what can I do differently? It matters so much to me to invest in them and to, you know, love them and have them feel loved by me. And so if they're not feeling that way, you know, I need to change some things. And so sometimes self-talk and, you know, other people's, you know, feedback to us can be hurtful. And just because it hurts, it doesn't mean it's bad. Okay. So that's the other side of this. It's not like all negative feedback is like, oh, you know, if someone tells you that you're doing something wrong, it doesn't mean that they're trying to hurt your feelings. It doesn't mean that it's wrong because your feelings are hurt. We have to be able to sort through this. And so this is why negative self-talk is there for a reason. Like, I'm not in the NBA because I have negative self-talk. Okay. I didn't try out for the NBA. I didn't even try out for like American Idol. Okay. Now I do sing and I'm a decent singer, but I didn't want to put myself through all of that. Okay. And so it's like negative self-talk does do good things for us. It protects us. It reminds you of your deadline and what will happen if you don't meet your deadline, and then motivates you with the, you know, adrenaline to get going. So again, this is why it's hard. It's like, when do I listen to it? When do I not? Most of the time, what we want to do is we want to figure out, is the negative self-talk working? Okay. Is it doing for me what I want it to do? So in the case of getting up in the morning, if I'm laying in bed and I actually have set a goal to get up every morning and have quiet time for like 10 minutes or 30 minutes or however long, for example, okay? Or you set a goal to go to work out, or you set a goal to, you know, live out a budget that you set, however you want to do this, whatever goal it is. And you start to have negative self-talk, like, oh, you're never going to follow through with that. You said that you're going to do that last time and you didn't actually do it. Or you have that like nagging, like guilt thing, like you should be doing that. You shouldn't be spending your money that way. You should be going to the gym by now. You should be getting up. It's 6:30. Why aren't you up yet? And the shoulding, or the you're always going to screw that up, you're never going to be able to pull that off, that kind of stuff, those fear, guilt, and shame emotions are going to keep us from actually following through. So sometimes the self-talk will motivate us, right? So if it's motivating you to actually follow through, even though it's negative, it might be, you know, your brain's last resort. Like, hey, hello, you missed that deadline. You need to go to the library and get the book and finish the project, finish the paper. Or you've got that, you know, those bills due next week. And so make sure that you set up your bill pay. Okay. That's fine. That's not negative self-talk. That's, you know, in a way of like, that's hurting you. It's helping you. It's reminding you that you need to do something, that you have something bad will happen if you don't follow through. Okay. So that's actually working because it's helping you to achieve your goal. But if your negative self-talk is paralyzing you through fear, guilt, and shame, and it's not allowing you to actually follow through with what you want, then it's not working for you. And that's where, like for me, if I'm laying in bed in the morning and all I'm doing is saying, Sarah, you should get up. You should, you know, go have quiet time. You should, you know, read your Bible or journal or whatever. Then that's where we have to figure out like a new method, because this isn't working anymore. So, for example, how I would do this, the steps of changing self-talk. Okay. I would start off, number one, identifying where I want to change and where I'm stuck. So I'm going to use my example of, you know, getting up in the morning on a regular basis. So if I am like, okay, I want to get up in the morning on a regular basis and have quiet time and enjoy time by myself, enjoy a cup of tea, enjoy time with God, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to start to pay attention. What is my self-talk around that issue? Okay. Wherever I'm stuck, notice your self-talk. So just right now, really quick, think of the goal that you have, that you want to have, but you're stuck in that area. You're going to notice that you either have an always or never, very often, you have an always or never pattern around that self-talk where you're like, oh, you're not going to be able to follow through with that. It's something that's being really like cynical and discouraging, or you're shoulding on yourself in that area. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. Maybe there's other types of self-talk that I'm, just not thinking of right now, but those are the two big ones. Okay. So think about that thing you want to do and why you're not doing it. And just think about, okay, instead of getting up in the morning, I'm laying in my bed. Okay. Well, what's happening? How are you talking to yourself while you're laying in bed? All right. Well, I'm saying I should get up. Well, that's true. Is it helping you get up? Do you actually get up? No, I just hit snooze. Okay, so the should isn't working for you. So how line of self-talk to actually help you? So one way to do this is to say, instead of I should, you can say I want. Okay, I want to get up in the morning. And this is a different hormone that gets released in your body when you say I want to do something, because it's like I have a desire and now I'm going to go achieve it. So if should is not working for you, now for some people it does work. Some people are a little more guilt motivated. I am not. I'm very guilt avoidant. So if should's not working for you, you can say I want to do this. Or Tony Robbins says, turn your shoulds into musts. So you can say, I must do this, like something that I'm going to set my mind to. I'm going to definitely do this. So I want to get up in the morning because I want to have time by myself. I want to start my day strong. I want to start my day with peace and gratitude. I want to start my day with like a really, really good focus. I want just to have quiet. So I really want I want to have this experience of peace and quiet. And so I want to get up in the morning. Okay. Or I must get up in the morning. This is essential for me. This is essential for me to achieve my goal. Whatever this is, however you want to say it, must, or I must, or I want. For me, I must is not like a word I use very much. Like I don't use the word must. I understand the concept behind it, but it doesn't like work as well for me. So just think about which one works better for you. For me, saying what I want is actually really powerful. And I actually did that last summer for about 2 months. I went on walks every day and I would write out things that I wanted. And it was really interesting because it sounds like just this selfish, conscious rant. But what was happening was I was being very intentional about what I would say I wanted, because I knew like I had to engage my action steps after that. Like I want to work for myself. I want to have like a really, really great, passionate, connected marriage. I want my kids to feel loved. I want my neighborhood to be safe. I want my son to grow, to go to school and feel loved and connected to his classmates and teachers, and I want him to be successful. And all of a sudden when you're saying what you want, it's like, whoa, that actually requires something of me. And so there's actually a lot of things I did not put on my list. I didn't say everything, It wasn't a wish list. It was an I want list. And wants engage me. They pull me into it. Like, oh, I want to have quiet time. Oh, I want to engage with my soul and with God. I want to take care of myself. I want to value myself. I want to have peace and gratitude as my predominant emotions. Oh my goodness, right? Like, what would that be like if, those were your first feelings of the day and not like anxiety or dread or, worry or despair, depression, hopelessness, that a lot of times people start off their day with those negative emotions. And then you add guilt to it too. Like, oh, I should be doing this. I should go to the gym. I shouldn't eat that for breakfast. I shouldn't be running late today. I should be getting up and having quiet time. But instead, we actually change it and say, I want to do this. Okay. And then write down why. So again, if you are stuck in that area, okay, we're just to recap again, if you're stuck in a certain area of your life, you want to be doing something and you're doing something else, identify how you're talking to yourself in that area. And then if it's like an always or never statement, like you're always doing this or you're never doing that, very often that's black and white thinking, and that's not true, right? It's not like if I laid in bed and I said, Sarah, you never get up on time. you're always late. Okay, that's not true. Okay, so you need to challenge it. So for always or never black and white kind of statements, you need to be like, hey, listen, I've made progress. I set a goal that I was going to get up 6 days a week, and I've gotten up 3. That was 3 days more than last week because I didn't do it at all last week, or however, you know. And so you have to notice progress. You have to get rid of the black and white. The black and white's never telling the truth. And so we're going to say, I am making progress. I am moving forward. I'm doing better than I was last week. Acknowledge setbacks. You're not in denial. This isn't about being in denial, but it's about acknowledging a setback and saying, okay, but I am making progress and I want to do even better. I want to see even more progress. I want to achieve this goal of getting to doing this 6 days a week or whatever your goal is. Okay. So we really want to be focusing on telling ourselves the truth about the progress that we're making and telling ourselves what we want to achieve instead of using black and white, always, never thinking, or using the should self-talk to use guilt to motivate ourselves. Because guys, it just doesn't work. So anyways, I wanted to just, again, share this with you all and just kind of, I know this is kind of a blast here because you know, we don't have like a ton of folks on the training right now. And I know that we'll have a few more people, you know, joining in a little bit later, but I want to just encourage you this week to be paying attention to this self-talk, pay attention to your always or nevers or your shoulds, and then ask yourself, hey, is that helping me? Is that actually moving me toward my goal or not? Because again, if it is, it's working for you. But most of the time it's not. And that's where we can say, how do I want to talk to myself differently? Do I need to recognize the progress and celebrate that? Do I need to turn this statement from should into must or I want? So that we can really focus on not what we should be doing and using guilt, but I want to do this, and using that, you know, compelling motivation to remind ourselves of our goal. So I am really excited about this. I'm going to be taking, so I've got my leaps are, you know, to impact 10,000 people through coaching, through groups, individual and video coaching, and through this community specifically, and also to be working for myself this year and have a healthy body so that hopefully I can have another baby, which I can't control that, but I can control if I have a healthy body. So I am doing 3 workouts a week with my trainer, and I've been doing a pretty good job of sticking with all of that. So I have had to really like get a hold of taking this self-talk and just being so on top of it with health, because I sabotaged myself a lot in the past with health because I'm not really like a workout person. And so I would just like kind of quit, you know, and be like, oh, whatever. And so part of me would always be like, oh, you're not going to stick with this. And so I've really had to be so diligent in recognizing my progress, celebrating my progress, and being honest about, you know, where I didn't want to do whatever it was. And if I didn't like it, if it was hard, if I was kind of slacking off, I needed to be honest about all of that. And so anyway, that's been really, really good for me. It's been good for me to set these goals, put numbers on things. We are going to set up this goal achieving webinar that, and I don't have a date for it yet, so I apologize. I know we keep talking about it, but I really, really want to do it. I'm super excited. I just need to like kind of map it out a little bit. So that will be something we are going to do here in the next week or so that, you know, you guys can get all on board with how I'm setting goals for myself, and that way we can do this together. So, anyway, it was great to just be on here and kind of share this stuff with you guys. I hope that self-talk is an area where you see a lot of victory and you are able to really overcome some of these stuck points in the past. But again, if you can change your self-talk, you can change your life. So feel free to just watch this again and get the replay so that you, in case you missed anything, you can just check back. But anyway, if you have questions, you can go ahead and post them in comments below and I will reply, or you can always send me a direct message if you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do this. But yes, if you have a question, I'd seriously be happy to answer. So anyway, have a great night, and let's all do this together. Let's change our shoulds into wants, and let's celebrate our progress. And we are going to make these leaps happen this year. Excited for us all. See you later.